Released in 2008, the Jeep Cherokee KK became the direct successor to the Cherokee in the body of the XJ. Nicknamed the Brick, its chopped forms look just as manly. There has always been a slight confusion with this model. In Europe, it was called Cherokee, and in America, Liberty. Despite the fact that Liberty crossovers were also delivered to the Old World, they are also Patriot. This is where the index of the KK model comes to the rescue, thanks to which you will know exactly which car we are talking about. This model was equipped with a 3.7-liter V6 petrol with a capacity of 205 horsepower, and a 2.8-liter 4-cylinder VM Motori turbo diesel. The gasoline engine is somewhat inferior to the diesel engine in terms of dynamic characteristics, but it is reliable and unpretentious. Nevertheless, there are nuances. The fuel filter is integrated into the fuel pump rack, so that in case of critical clogging, everything will have to be changed as an assembly. Of course, diesel is more demanding on fuel quality and more expensive to repair. Its problems are usually associated with unsuccessful refueling and are manifested at least in the need to replace one or more nozzles. And since this is a common rail, the price for them is far from symbolic, 36,000 rubles a piece. Replacement, including calibration work, 3,000 rubles. For one or 6,000 for all. The best recommendation for long and trouble-free operation is to install a separator filter in the fuel line and choose gas stations that are responsible for the quality of diesel fuel. However, do not forget about the regular, or better and more frequent, replacement of the standard sump filter. The worst thing that can await the owner of a Jeep Cherokee with 2.8 CRD when the nozzle freezes is a water hammer of technical origin. This is when the nozzle does not close and pours fuel into the cylinder in full, so that unburned diesel fuel during the compression stroke creates such resistance to the piston that not only the connecting rod, but also the crankshaft bends with ease. And this is a major overhaul of the internal combustion engine. Moreover, the bulkhead work of 40,000 rubles. This is not even half the trouble. The crankshaft costs 70,000 rubles, the connecting rods come only as a set, and this is another 19,500 rubles. Gaskets, liners, and other consumables will also add a lot. However, we emphasize once again, the indicated problems are associated with refueling with low-quality fuel and do not necessarily wait for the future owner. But with the turbine, everything is somewhat more complicated. The owner's manual for the Jeep Cherokee KK clearly explains in what situation and how long you need to let the engine idle after a trip. But who reads our instructions? So when buying a used car, the turbo timer standing on it will be the key to success. The fact is that if the first owner did not save the turbine, it is unlikely that it will survive the milestone of 90,000 kilometers. Replacing the turbine will empty the owner's pocket by at least 100,000 rubles. Detail plus work. By the way, an uncontrolled oil leak through the turbine leads to oil starvation of the internal combustion engine, since the lubrication system is one, and, again, to a major overhaul of the motor. It should be noted that the diesel engine has two huge pluses: impressive traction and low fuel consumption, about 12 liters per 100. In good condition, this diesel engine starts without problems even in a fair frost. All Jeep Cherokee KK entered the Russian market in a decent configuration of limited and with automatic transmission. The American 4-speed automatic 42 RLE was installed on gasoline versions, and the Mercedes 5-speed NAG1 was installed on diesel versions. All boxes are reliable, with proper operation and routine maintenance. An oil change is recommended every 40,000 to 45,000 kilometers in automatic transmissions, and every 60,000 kilometers in manual transmissions. The main thing to remember is that NAG1 requires a special oil from Mercedes-Benz, and not the usual ATF plus 4. The transfer boxes on the Russian Cherokee are wonderful. Select Track 2, MP256, which allows you to drive both rear-wheel drive and full-time. The role of the differential is performed by a multiplate clutch, and it was not noticed in the tendency to overheat even during off-road operation. There is also a reduced range of gears. When activated, the center clutch is automatically blocked. There are no complaints about the operation of the transmission. By the way, Cherokee was equipped with an effective traction control system that really helps both on the road and in the mud. It is implemented, as on most modern cars, through braking the wheels with pads. The suspension is quite reliable and will not remind you of itself more often than once every 50,000 to 60,000 kilometers. This is, of course, subject to reasonable exploitation. The car is controlled quite predictably, except that the rear axle does not always have time to work out bumps and corners. Of the common problems, increased backlash in the steering rack can be noted, especially when installing too much off-road rubber. For the same reason, ball bearings fail, but in any case, before replacing parts, the car will run at least 60,000 to 70,000 kilometers. Consumables on our roads can only be considered struts and bushings of the anti-roll bar, bushings, 700 rubles. Per piece, racks, 2,500 rubles. Per piece, lower ball bearings with work cost 4,500 rubles. Per piece, the upper ball joints change only when assembled with the lever. This is 9,000 rubles. For detail and work, the steering rack will ask for 30,000 rubles when replacing it, but it will have to be installed only once, and then with a run of at least 120,000 kilometers. All other shortcomings relate to the electrical part. Moisture or icing leads to damage to the parking sensors. Digital communication between the control units is lost. The defect is software and is eliminated by flashing the unit or passing an adaptive test. The tire pressure monitoring system, TPM system, loses communication with the sensors. In general, nothing global, especially since the car will in any case be on the go and get to the service on its own. The braking system is flawless. The electrician does not present surprises, but the electronic units, as already mentioned, can lose communication via the digital bus. Flashing/adaptation will cost from 1,500 to 3,500 rubles. But with unskilled installation of additional equipment, cables can be damaged, in which case diagnostics and repairs will cost from 5,000 to 7,000 rubles. 2. Replacing the harness with disassembling the interior, about 35,000 to 45,000 rubles. So if you can contact almost any service for suspension repair, then with electronics it is better to choose a profile one. There are too many nuances, the solution of which, on the knee, is fraught with additional problems and costs. The interior of the Cherokee is simple. The plastics are hard, not squeaky, but not too scratch-resistant. The leather that covers the seats turns out to be artificial, and on the driver's seat is often cracked on the left sidewall. But all this is nonsense compared to the nuance of the climate system. Despite the fact that in any frost, warm air begins to flow from the air ducts after 5 minutes of driving, it categorically does not want to enter the legs. It appears to be a design flaw in the car. However, in general, the stove is quite powerful, and with some skill, the owners managed to provide heating for the lower extremities due to the cunning adjustment of the air ducts. A big plus of the car is the interior laid out on a flat floor. By the way, the folded front passenger seat continues this plane, which adds practicality to the model. Yes, and it must be added that the interior is really wide. 3 passengers in the back are quite comfortable, especially since there is enough legroom.